Hmm. The recent arrest of Pavel Durov, Telegram's founder, has sparked concern about whether it's a justified move against illegal activities or dangerous overreach threatening privacy and free speech. The very vague charges, including issues around encryption, complicity, and illegal activities and refusal to cooperate with law enforcement, raise more concerns than answers, leaving doubts about the legitimacy of the arrest. That and many, many more stories tonight. You're listening to Geek News Central, episode 1762, coming to this Monday, August 26th. I'm your host, Todd Cochran. A big shout out to our primary sponsor, GoDaddy.com. Grab your deal at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And to all of our awesome listeners, you are the real MVPs. Contribute your time, talent, or treasure at geeknewscentral.com/insider by becoming a GNC insider. We're live and lit with the modern podcast apps from podcastapps.com. Join the value for value movement by downloading and using a modern podcast app. You can always dive into our digital hub at geeknewscentral.com. Don't forget to check out our partner shows, all linked up at the top, which includes the new media show, the GNC Week in Review. Check those shows out. Of course, Don Bain and the Gadget Professor as well. Get on board and don't forget to follow or subscribe via your favorite modern podcast app. Sign up for the newsletter while you're at it. You can always join our chat room at geeknews.chat. That's really a great way to stay connected with the show. And if you have feedback, it's very, very simple. Email me, geeknews@gmail.com, or catch me on X at geeknews. You can find me on Facebook as well. And a massive salute to GoDaddy, the longest running continuous sponsor of a podcast where savings begin. And I had to laugh today. I saw a study that said long-term repeated endorsements of the same product has no value. The advertiser should only advertise one time in a single episode and will get better results. Well, I guess they didn't talk to me. Here we are, literally 19 years later, and GoDaddy is still a sponsor of this show where you can lock in your savings, starting with $11.99 for a brand new domain name, $6.99 a month economy hosting, $6.99 a month economy hosting. This free domain includes a professional email and SSL certificate for the first year. Of course, $12.99 a month to manage WordPress hosting. Again, a free domain, professional email, and an SSL certificate for the first year. Or free trial of GoDaddy Website Builder. Your choice of personal, business, or business plus plans. It's a 1 month free trial. Your way to get online and really prepare for what's coming. And what's coming, I think, is not good. I don't want to be a dooms for being ongoing supporter of this. Well, I am back. I'm back from Washington, D.C. It was interesting. I went out for a podcast movement, which was held just on the outside of the Beltway, close to the MGM, at a Gaylord Resort, where the drinks at evening events were $16 a piece. Oh, yeah. The bar was cheaper than the event drinks, which was bizarre in itself. But I got a chance to, on Friday, we finished the show at 1 o'clock. Took us a couple hours to get everything wrapped up. So Mike Dell and I jumped in the Uber and we went to the mall. And Lincoln Memorial, Vietnam's Veterans Memorial, the World War II Memorial, which you've never seen, is just amazing. You could spend several hours going through just walking around looking at everything. The Korean War Memorial and the new addition to it that I had not seen, And then we went up to Lincoln Monument. It was already too late to do the tour. It was closed, but we kind of hang out there in the shade a little bit. It was a super hot day. And I think we logged about 3.5 miles over a couple of hours and stopping and looking at stuff. And it was a great time. DC was very cool, no humidity. It was lovely, very lovely. And I forgot. It's been, gosh, since 97, 96. Since no, excuse me, is it two? No, yeah, 96 or 97, somewhere around that range. Maybe maybe 90. Yeah, right. Anyway, right around that time since I'd been in the mall, and I'd been to DC a lot, but always Pentagon or Crystal City or going south to Maryland lots of times, but never spending any time in Washington, D.C. proper. I want to have to do it again and go back and hit the museums again. Things have just completely changed. So I guess, that was Thursday afternoon. And then Friday morning, very early morning flight back to Detroit. I got in here about 12:30, kind of unpacked and just kind of vegetated most of Friday and Saturday. Saturday, I couldn't get the help I was expecting to be able to move furniture. Sunday, my help kind of wigged on me as well, and I said to hell with it, and I went and rented a U-Haul, and I got the remaining furniture that I needed to kind of complete what I wanted to do up here. Got that all loaded and moved by about 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Family members helped me get stuff up in here. And it's now the beginning of phase 2 of unpacking stuff that I had at the office, business papers, mementos, just stuff that I need that, basically I don't want to stay in storage long term or be, subjected to winter and hot and cold. So unpacking that. So this is phase 2, and I should get that all done this week in the evenings. And then phase 3 will really start immediately as I kind of get done with this one space. And that's really kind of going into all of the boxes of stuff and making 2 piles: keep, sell, donate. Really, I've got a bunch of old laptops. I have no idea where to take them around here. So I got to research where to take old laptops. I'll take the hard drives out and make sure they don't go in the dumpster. Got to recycle them and stuff like that. So that starts phase 3. Part of phase 3 will also be selling excess furniture. So probably one of the days I'm down sorting stuff, I will put up something on Facebook Marketplace. And I've got 2 units. One with stuff that I know I'm going to sell, and just list stuff and say, hey, if you're interested, I'm here from this time to this time. Come get it. So I'm going to be very, very busy, still kind of sorting stuff all the way through the entire month of September. One interesting story I want to tell before I get into the content tonight that I saw or experienced in DC. And if you're live today watching, make sure you say hello. We definitely appreciate it when you're chat room when you do that. My Uber driver from the mall back to where we were having this event where we were staying was probably only about a 10 or 15 minute drive. I got in the car, and it was a nice Toyota. I was kind of commenting on how Toyota's upped their game just a little bit. And I asked the driver where he was from, and he said he was from Afghanistan. I said, really? I said, how long you been here? And he told me, and it lined up. It lined up exactly to the events that are 3-year anniversary today to the disaster that happened in Afghanistan and the tragedy that unfolded there. And I'm like, how did you get out? And he was telling me about basically he was a translator embedded with Marines, and his Marines shoved him into a transport, said, you got to go. And he said, my pregnant wife and my child are here. I can't leave. And they said, we'll get them out. And they couldn't. And he told me about the 3-year yes, 3-year journey to get them to the United States. They just recently arrived, and he was quite emotional about that. But he talked about, and I won't talk on the show about how he got his wife out, only to say that there's some very good people here in America that are not the government that assisted in getting his wife and children out. This was one of the individuals that needed to get out, and his story was heartbreaking. And I asked him a question that I didn't know what the response I was going to get. I asked him, "What do you think about the United States?" And he says he had non-kind words to say about the U.S. government and how they pulled out of Afghanistan, but he had absolute incredible things to say about the people that helped get his wife out, his experience since he's been here, everything that has went along with is basically getting a place to stay and reestablishing life and everything else. And it first of all, it made me incredibly angry. It brought up the thoughts that I had 3 years ago about how, and he said we've left, I think he said 60%, I put it in my Facebook post, 60 or 80% of the people that should have got out didn't go out. He talked about the torture his brother suffered on the hands of the Taliban, being detained for 2 months just because he was able to get out, and the disaster that unfolded in the withdrawal and how it happened. And so really bad things to say about the current administration and how that went down, and really wonderful things about the people that got him out. He asked me personally not to mention, he told me the organization. He asked me personally not to talk about it. There are organizations out there that are still getting people that deserve to have gotten out of Afghanistan to get them out. And it was striking. It was very, very, it's emotional right now for me. When I got stopped and I got him out of his car, I went to his front of his window, and I told him, I said, thank you for your sacrifice, and literally his major sacrifice. And so it was quite emotional, and him and I talked quite a little bit, and it was just one of those things. And so just, it's as today is the 3-year the 3-year anniversary of the tragedy where 13 Americans died and hundreds of Afghanis died of that suicide bomber. I don't think we should forget some of the stuff that's happened. And it goes along with some of those major events that has happened throughout time, 9/11 and everything else. But it was pretty emotional for me. And anyway, I thought I'd bring it up today. But there are some groups very secretly trying to get people out, and he entrusted me with that, and I will not talk about it just so we don't bring eyeballs upon that particular organization, because they're doing stuff very, very undercover and getting people out in whatever modes necessary through whichever country they can accomplish it. And I just leave it at that. So anyway, enough said on that. We'll get into the show. And for those of you that are new to the show, have never listened to the show, I spent 25 years active duty, retired in 2007. I saw combat by means of being in an airplane. Never was on the ground above Afghanistan and Iraq. And I'll kind of leave it at that. And then additional federal service. So let's get into the content here, and we'll get into what you all came for today. Meanwhile, in France, Macron has said that he was not involved. He said the French government was not involved in the arrest of Telegram founder. The arrest of him on French territory took place as part of a so-called ongoing judicial investigation. He said this is no way a political decision. It's up to the judge to decide. He was detained Saturday night after his private jet arrived in Paris. His arrest took place as part of a probe into a series of charges, including what they're calling complicity in the detaining and sharing of child pornography. He wasn't doing it. Users of Telegram were. Complicity in drug trafficking, as well as organized crime and money laundering. The probe was open against an unidentified person. But here you have a platform that is encrypted, just as your Apple iPhone is. And they weren't able to give up information. So is Tim Cook going to get arrested when he goes to Paris for having a phone that is encrypted? And this should be of major concern for app developers at this point. No one is safe from these over-draconian countries that think they know better than you and I and how privacy should be dealt. They don't want privacy. They want access to everything. Now, Telegram does not report to CSAM. Now, what is CSAM? Child exploitation reporting. They do not report, which is an interesting concern that Telegram doesn't. Now, that is probably not a smart thing to do. Now, CSAM's content is outright illegal, but some other stuff, maybe just material that some people dislike. If the investigation is focused just on outright illegal content, that's one. If not, then this starts to look worse. And of course, the EU, being the EU, so they're taking the founder. They grab the founder and charging him with this. Refusal to cooperate with law enforcement, demands for info. Again, the complicity. Encryption. They don't like that this app is encrypted. And you can either have all encryption or you can't have any encryption. That's kind of where we're at today. And if you're going to have encryption on your app and you're the founder of the company, you may not be able to travel anywhere where you could get rolled up. You know, we've got people in the UK being arrested now for things that they say online. People getting prison terms for things they say online. When they can't have an opinion. They're not allowed to have an opinion. Let me say that again. So we will see. We'll see where this leads. He wasn't the person. But I bet if he knew he was getting arrested, he wouldn't have flown into Paris. That's for sure. NVIDIA, they're going to report their Q2 earnings on Wednesday. So we'll see how they're doing. I bet the results are going to be very, 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 very good. Meanwhile, OpenAI has changed their tune. They're going to support a California AI bill requiring watermarking of synthetic content. The AB 3211 has had some changes to it. So they believe that for AI-generated content, transparency and requirements around the provenance, such as watermark, are important, especially in an election year. According to a letter sent to the state assembly, new technology and standards can help people understand the origin of content they find online and avoid confusion between human-generated and photorealistic AI-generated content. OpenAI Chief Strategy Officer Jason Wan wrote in a letter, which was reviewed by Reuters. Now, AB 3211 has already passed state lemon by 62-0 this month. And it passed the Senate Appropriations Committee, sending it up for a full vote in the Senate. So if it passes by the end of the legislative session on August 31st, it would advance to the governor there to sign or veto by September 3rd. Now, that isn't the other bill that's had some language changes that they're also getting behind. This is a completely different one. So as goes California, will largely go the country, just because so many companies operate that. Those of you that are iPhone junkies, the Apple iPhone 16 launch is set for September. Apple is expected to launch its lineup at 10 a.m. Pacific, and they sent out invitations to event today with a tagline, "It's Glow Time," a reference to the redesigned SIRI. Matter of fact, I'm having issues with SIRI. For the longest time, she wasn't responding on my phone. And I finally found the issue, got that fixed. And then here in my loft, I have one of the, Apple home devices or whatever it is. The stupid thing always gets the lowest volume. I tell it, say, max volume, keep max volume, keep max volume. It never keeps max volume. It's so irritating. I go, hey, SIRI. And because it's in the house, my phone doesn't respond. It does. And it doesn't talk loud enough. It whispers. I say, turn the volume up to 100%. Leave the volume at 100%. And it never, within 5 minutes, it's back down to like 20. It's beyond me. Of course, all four iPhone 16s are expected to have an action button, which was exclusive for the Pro line. With the Apple iPhone 15, may also have a new button dedicated to capturing photos and videos, but it's unclear. So time will tell where this leads. So not too long to find out. Meanwhile, this morning, or for those of you that are listening to the show Tuesday morning, SpaceX historic Polaris Dawn mission is set to launch at 3:35 a.m. Eastern. So it's not, you're not going to, most of us are going to be asleep. Those of you on the West Coast, you may have a late evening and may have stayed up and watched it. I'm going to be in bed. But first announced in 2022, Polaris Dawn is a mission funded by billionaire and private astronaut Jared Isaacman. And they're going to do the first spacewalk by a private firm. And that's going to happen about 430 miles above Earth. But this mission is going to last over 6 days, and they're going to continue out to a 1,400-mile ellipse around the Earth. So I don't know exact date of the spacewalks. All 4 crew members, 2 men and 2 women, are going to be able to not step outside of the capsule, but hold on to the rails at the top of the stairs. So they're going to be attached via a tether and a plug-in on their suit. And the new spacesuits are made with new materials for improved mobility. These suits are paired with a 3D printed helmet with a heads-up display and visor designed to mitigate glare. And again, all 4 astronauts are going to be wearing the upgraded suits when the spacewalk takes place. The Crew Dragon doesn't have an airlock, so the crew members inside the capsules are also going to be exposed to the vacuum of space. And the capsule will be passing through the Van Allen radiation belt. So they are going to have mitigations for that. They're going to be looking at ways to mitigate micrometeor strikes and so forth. But all this is going to be going on SpaceX websites and its X page. So get ready to be bombarded over the next 6 days with lots of content. We'll be covering it all here on the show. I'm sure many of you will be watching online as well. Now, the JUICE spacecraft just flew by, and it snapped some images of Earth and the moon as it passed. And the images of the moon are look pretty good, but the images of the Earth, well, those are less than impressive. It was kind of cloudy over Luzon in the Philippines. It got a picture of Earth from there. Nothing to write home to mama about for sure. But, this camera is designed to look at atmospheres that don't exist. Look at bodies, celestial bodies that have no atmosphere. So they're dialing in the camera during the flyby to get the gravity boost. So again, the camera called Janus, Janus, is going to take high resolution images of Jupiter's moons, but we've got a few years to wait for that because this is it's a long ways to go. 2031 is the prospective time for that to make its approach. Hey, I want to thank our insiders here very, very much. I want to thank Kurt Corliss for his $5 sustaining donation, Curtis Parrish for his $5 sustaining donation, Daniel Lemix for his $10 Ohana donation, Christian Petrie for his $3 sustaining donation, and Mike Dell for his $2 sustaining donation. Thank you so much for your ongoing donations. We did have 1,500 sats that came in from R.W. Nash. He said, worry about the lack of carpeting, go value for value. Yeah, there was no carpeting, so we had carpeting in our booth at the event we were at Podcast Movement. And we did have quite a few sats that came in for the last new media show. Do appreciate that. So it doesn't look like many of you are using Fountain. How come? How come you haven't tried that newfangled podcast app at podcastapps.com? We want you to be on the ticker screen here, just like everyone else, so I can report on your activity coming into the show. And of course, if you don't want to mess with the fiat, not want to mess with the crypto component, don't worry. You can send a donation directly through the webpage at geeknesscentral.com/insider. You can sign up for $2, $5, $10, $15, or $20 a month, or $20 or $25 a month contribution. It's automated. Just set it and forget it. We definitely appreciate when you do that. It supports the show in a big, big, big way. All right, moving back into the content. Turns out the death of the control panel in Windows 11 has been greatly exaggerated. Windows 11 and Windows 10 will keep the control panel for some time yet. Ars Technica is reporting this follows a string of articles last week that popped up around the control panel, which is nearly 40 years old, and plays host to a bunch of settings, which has always drove me crazy. The conclusion was mainly based on the Sentinel support article about system tools. It said the control panel is in the process of being depreciated in favor of a settings app. So, but it's not happened yet. But the depreciation does mean that it's feature frozen and will be removed at some point, but not now. The control panel will exist. The new settings app will probably be tested and brought online. But gosh, I can remember this control panel for years. It's just, it's been, my God, how long has it been in existence? Since, I can almost remember. Oh, what happened here? Did we lose our live? Oh, why did Facebook shut me down? Oh, that's weird. Well, it says I'm live. Oh, there was 2 lives. Hello, Anita. Hello, Kyle. Hello, Justin. No, I'm not in Detroit. I'm south of Coldwater, Michigan. So that's where I'm at. And let's see here. Did anybody have anything pop in here? Nobody's popped in on YouTube yet. So thanks for making a comment saying hello. U.S. Grid has added batteries at 10 times the rate of natural gas in the first half of 2024. According to this report, quote unquote, by year's end, 96% of the U.S. grid additions won't add carbon to the atmosphere. While solar power is growing at extremely rapid clip in absolute terms, the use of natural gas for electricity production has continued to outpace renewables. But that looks set to change as U.S. Energy Information Agency has run the numbers on the first half of the year and found that wind, solar, and batteries that were installed at a pace that dwarfs new natural gas generators, and the gap is expected to get dramatically larger before the year is over. According to the EIA's numbers, about 20 gigawatts of new capacity was added. That's nothing, really, in the first half of this year, and solar accounts for 60% of it. Over a third of the solar additions occurred in just 2 states, Texas and Florida. There were 2 projects that went live and rated at 600 megawatt capacity, one in Texas and another in Nevada, which is probably mostly solar. But next up, the U.S. saw additional 4.2 additional gigawatts of battery capacity. So 400 gigawatts, 20 gigawatts of new capacity, but only 4.2 gigawatts of battery capacity, which will have to be replaced every 5 to 10 years. Batteries are treated as the equivalent of a generating source by the EIA, since they can dispatch electricity to the grid on demand. Well, again, not as long of a shelf life. Texas and California alone accounted for 60% of these additions. Throw in Arizona and Nevada, and you're at 93% of the installed capacity. The clear pattern here is that batteries are going where solar is, allowing the power generated on the peak of the day to be used to meet the demand after the sun sets. So, whatever you think, wherever your loyalties lay here, cumulative utility scale generating capacity additions is in a chart that shows how much has been added. Again, no new coal, no nuclear, nothing like that. We can't be putting new coal or gas operated generation capacity in there because, just can't do that. Can't think about a nuclear power plant. But we can add batteries, which are as environmentally impactful as anything else out there. So we're thinking of put all these batteries when things go sideways, when these batteries have to be replaced. What are they going to do with all those? Is it going to be like nuclear waste? They're going to have to find some mountain to bury them in? I think I'd rather bury nuclear waste than I would battery waste, considering the bang for the buck. Blue Origin is targeting mid-October for New Glenn inaugural flight and launch of NASA Escapade Mars mission. The company said New Glenn will lift off for the first time no earlier than October 13th. So it's heavy lift rocket and its Mars-bound payload have a tentative launch date. So anyway, this thing's headed to Mars. This will be its inaugural mission. So hopefully everything goes well with this. And we wish Blue Origin Rocket Lab the best of luck. And the mission will lift off from Space Launch Complex 36. The twin spacecraft of NASA Escapade and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorers arrived in Florida to begin preps and integration with the launch vehicle. So now it's really on Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin to get New Glenn ready in time. And of course, Bloomberg on Wednesday reported the company's recently suffered 2 failures at its factories that resulted in damage to hardware for its second and third New Glenn mission. But basically, they didn't keep the thing pressurized. So it was a human error that caused the failure of the 2 lift vehicles. For those of you who's a Mac users out there, there's a new Mac OS malware called Cthulhu Stealer. It mimics legitimate apps to steal sensitive data. So what are the apps that it's mimicking? It is mimicking Clean My Mac, Grand Theft Auto 6, and Adobe Gen P. Those are the 3 apps that are coming from sites you should not be on to begin with, that basically is ending up delivering this malware to your computer. A little more space news. Firefly Aerospace Lunar Lander begins pre-launch environmental tests. Now, this thing looks pretty fancy. Yes, another lunar lander. So that's very, very, very exciting. Getting ready to go back again to the moon. But the company announced August 26th that its Blue Ghost lander is at JPL for vibration, acoustic, thermal vacuum, and electromagnetic interference and compatibility tests And they intended to confirm that the lander operates as expected in a space environment, can survive the rigors of launch. Firefly, they say, this is a quote from the company, Firefly is proud to follow in the footsteps of Surveyor landers who are tested in the same GPL facilities. If Blue Ghost passes those tests, it will be shipped to Florida for launch on Falcon 9, currently scheduled for the fourth quarter of this year. The lander will spend about a month in Earth orbit after launch of test systems before going into orbit around the moon for 2 weeks ahead of the landing attempt. So, while I don't cover it here specifically, the big announcement over the weekend that SpaceX will be bringing the astronauts home. The 2 astronauts are stuck there to February because Boeing failed. And again, as I continue to remind you guys about the money the U.S. government has given Boeing for this, there was U.S. government inspectors there monitoring and inspecting the systems of this vehicle. So the U.S. government is as much a failure in this as Boeing is. And the same thing goes along for SLS. We'll have some more comments about the new Boeing CEO here in a few moments. But just imagine you try to replicate what it's like to live on the ISS. And some guy did an experiment for one day. This is on the Daily Mail. He had to eat rehydrated food for 3 times in a day. And he had to sleep in a coffin-like box. And he did specific tasks and had to exercise real hard. And he complained all the way through this article. He said, this is hard. Can't do it. Guess what? That's why we have very, very, very strong people that are up there doing that exact job. Eating rehydrated food, sleeping in a sleeping bag, stand up, strapped to a wall. Come on. It was like a little puff piece about how hard it is on the International Space Station. We have very hardy, strong, and very brilliant people at the International Space Station. So for this writer, so I tried to live like an International Space Station. Well, dude, you weren't even close. You didn't have to sit on a vacuum-powered toilet. Come on now. It's... So, a little whiny guy. And, yes, they got to work while they're up there. What else is there to do? There's nothing else to do. Work. They do get an hour and a half of free time every day. There's a sneaky Linux malware that went undetected for years and is using all new attack tactics. A novel piece of malware which grants its operators the ability to remotely access the compromised devices has been hiding in plain sight for more than 2 years. This is crazy. 2 years it's been out there. Strauss Friedberg discovered the malware and wrote an in-depth explainer. Said the malware is called SEDEXP. It's been evading detection in 2022. Grants users remote access to the vulnerable endpoint is important. It's not the malware's unique property. It said it's a way it's remained hidden and made sure most antivirus solutions didn't detect it. As per the report, SEDEXP went under the radar by using UDEV rules. I don't know what that means. So those of you that are Linux folks might know that. And so he's got the full details in this article. Link will be up in the show notes for you to review. If you run a Linux machine, this is probably important. I'm sure the software updates will get you in a position to be able to understand exactly what's going on. So, yes, Boeing CEO is facing some hard choices here. He just took over. I would not want to be in this guy's shoes. You can probably start by firing a bunch of people that need to be fired, because this is a humiliating setback to its space ambitions. And they've had airplane problems. Now you got base problems. Now, the decision about the future struggling Starliner program rests with Boeing's newly installed CEO. And the spectrum NASA astronauts being stuck in space is just one embarrassing moment for Boeing. and of course the 737 MAX stuff. But he took the job over earlier this month, and could be more further losses for Boeing. Shares of Boeing fell less than 1%. Stock has lost about a third of its value since the beginning of the year. Not a stock to hold for sure. Of course, it might be time to buy because, usually when you have this many failures, then they start kicking really hard and figure it out. But they will continue to work on the problem once Starliner is back safely. And that will have a redundancy and crew access to the space station. So anyway, it's just bad. I guess that was a comment from the NASA guy. In other words, NASA doesn't want to say you guys are done before they're back. They don't want to kick too much sand in the face. But NASA hasn't ruled out certifying the Boeing aircraft, although it could require another test flight. That could cost Boeing about $400 million based on the charges the company booked to redo an earlier test flight. Boeing's strained balance sheets and expected cash burn at least $5 billion this year, a consideration the company has to weigh against its legacy in space, which dates back to the Apollo. After recording some $1.6 billion in cost overruns. That's something Boeing's good at, is cost overruns, which, the government often sucks up and inhales. So what say you? What's your guys' thought process here on what's going on with Boeing? And, of course, SpaceX, was a little company that basically got their butt kicked and, everyone's out to get them. Look what they've done. Not to say they're perfect, but boy, oh boy, you can't deny Falcon 9, what it's accomplished. Here is some news from a company that I perpetually hate. I'm just going to be kind of frank. Frontier. Frontier is about to offer 7 gig fiber access across several states. Well, let's be correct in the statement here. It's not across 7 states. It's across just a couple of towns or cities. 7 gig fiber. Now, Frontier was given a bunch of money to expand rural broadband. They have spent almost none of that money. And the time is running out, and maybe that money will end up having to be returned to the government. But apparently, Frontier offers fiber in about 25 states, including California, Texas, Florida, New York, Minnesota, and others. The company offers 2 gig and 5 gig options. Well, I'd like just half a gig here, please. But they're going to offer the 7 gig service. No, 8 gig service. To San Antonio, Salt Lake, Mesa, Arizona. Those are the 3 places that are going to get this. It's not being rolled out everywhere. It's just to a few small areas. And do you have Frontier? Is that a company you use? I'd love to hear how their service works for you. I really, really would. And another blow to China. Every time I see one of these articles, I smile. IBM is the latest American company to downsize its presence in China among heightened tensions between Washington and Beijing. China's effort to decrease its dependence on the West have ratcheted up local market competition. U.S. tech giants, including Microsoft, are looking elsewhere to house their operation. IBM will shut down its R&D in China. Why they were doing R&D in China, where it's just being stolen, I don't understand, impacting about 1,000 jobs. Why don't have that R&D done here in America, IBM? The Chinese government has encouraged domestic companies to overtake and push U.S. tech dominance out of the country in a bid for self-sufficiency. The Wall Street Journal earlier this year, IBM has faced mounting competition. IBM executive Jack Hergenrother told employees virtually Monday, per the journal, that IBM would probably move its R&D operation to other overseas facilities. According to the company's 2023 annual report, the company saw its revenue in China drop 19.6% last year. But guess what? China is in huge trouble. Those of you that use FlightAware, including me, they've had their data has been stolen. So they say they accidentally leaked the personal data of 10,000 aircraft operators and 12 million users. A configuration error resulted in the company exposing usernames, passwords, email address, names, billing address, telephone numbers, birth dates, aircraft ownership records, user data, and more. Not surprising. Another one comes, another, and this wasn't even a cyber attack. They did it to themselves. Now, imagine you're a reporter and you're using Bing. This is going to blow you away. Microsoft Bing Copilot is accusing a reporter of the crimes he covered. Oh my goodness. Martin Bernclaw, who has served for years as a court reporter in the area around Tübingen, I don't know where that's at. Is that Germany? For various publications, asked Bing about himself. He found that the AI chatbot blamed him for crimes he had covered. In an email, his lawyers sent a cease and desist to demand Microsoft remove this data. But it basically said that he'd done all kinds of heinous things. He said seeing his name associated with various crimes had been traumatized, a mixture of shock, horror, and disbelieving laughter. It was too crazy to unbelieve, but also too threatening. He explained he had linked Copilot. He explained it linked him to serious crimes. He added the AI bot had found a play called Tote Matcher about mass murder Fritz Harman on his culture blog and produced a misidentify him as the author of the play. I hesitated for a long time whether I should go public because that lead to the spread of slander and my person becoming also visually known. But since all legal options have been unsuccessful, I decided to advise my son and several other comments to go public. The local public prosecutor's office had rejected criminal charges to instance, and data protection officer could only achieve short-term success. Today, as a test, I entered a criminal judge I knew into Copilot with the name and place of residence in his city. The judge was prominently named as the perpetrator of a judgment he had made himself a few weeks ago against a psychotherapist who had been convicted of sexual abuse. So here you have a large language model where the individual has searched his own name and it made all kind of heinous lies about him. And this is coming up in Bing search results. Imagine the horror. The absolute horror. I can't imagine. And here is the challenge that we're going to be facing for a long time. These AI platforms still hallucinate and don't get stuff right. I keep telling people, as much as I use AI, I cross-check, triple-check, recheck everything because using AI is not a replacement for common sense. You have to have people knowledgeable to read through what it's produced, say, yep, this is right, wrong, make the edits you need to do before you ever use this content. Yep, it's going to hear more stories like this. Now, Sonos is another company that's on my short list of, put up my double middle fingers. Give them the Sonos CEO says the old app that everyone loved can't be resurrected. So, they already made speakers we had obsolete. I got 2 very expensive speakers, even though I've had them for more than 10 years. They basically on a shelf, useless. But if you want the old Sonos app back, it's not coming. And a Reddit AMA posted last week, Sonos CEO Spence says that he was hopeful until very recently that the company would re-release the app, that the company was considered doing so, but after testing, releasing an old app would apparently make things worse. So if you're a Sonos fan, which I am no longer, it's not coming back. Meanwhile, of course, we're getting close to a bunch of announcements by Apple, but the Apple Mac Mini with the M2 Pro chipset is now at $150 off. You'll need to add a coupon on top of the sale. So you're looking to boost your iMac capabilities? So without having to do a complete overhaul? Again, I'm going everything Mac Mini. I'm not buying any more iMacs. The Mac Mini with a M2 Pro chip is quite a force to be reckoned with. And it's available for a record price of $1,150, down from $1,299, thanks to an 8% discount and a $49 coupon. You can click right on the product page. This model, again, we've got a link in the show notes here. This is an article from Engadget. And so it's a great device. Probably headed to an M3 soon, but still great price, great computer for 99% of people. I found two articles today, and both were from Bloomberg. By the way, Kirk has got a family issue, so I had to do the show prep today. And these two articles from Bloomberg, I can't read them in completion because they want me to give them a bunch of information. I'm not going to do it. But Uber's been hit by a record $324 million fine for data transfer to the U.S. Uber was fined for not sufficiently protecting driver data. The fine is the highest ever penalty ever issued by Dutch regulators. So this is coming from the Dutch. They fined them. So again, all about the EU. At the same time, NVIDIA, which has a lot of employees that become millionaires, they basically said they're too busy to bask in their wealth. They're working as hard as they ever have. Here's the solution. If you have hit the jackpot at NVIDIA and you are now a multimillionaire, you don't have to work. If your stock options have matured and you have that stock without having to continue to work, you can leave the company and cash in that wealth. Don't complain that you're working too hard. You know, if you're working very hard and the stock, even though the stock has went up 3,776% since 2019, if you have enough of it and the work hours are grueling, resign. Eat your cake. 23 million Americans navigate hiked internet costs since the end of ACP. 23 million were getting a subsidy from the American Connectivity Program, which provided low-income households with discounts on home internet. The ACP helped low-income households save $30 to $75 a month on the internet. So if you think about that, let's just use 30 a month, 30 times 12 times 23 million. That was some money being spent. That's incredible. $14.2 billion is how much it actually was until the money ran out. So that was a lot of savings for a lot of people. Gone. Now China is gaining access to NVIDIA microchips by renting computers. The U.S. has blocked exports of NVIDIA chips to China. Where there's profit, there's a way. So basically, one entrepreneur helping Chinese companies overcome the hurdles. A former Bitcoin miner has basically persuaded investors to buy in the U.S. to fund the purchase of AI servers housing NVIDIA's powerful H100 chips. And basically, he loaded more than 300 servers with the chips in a data center in Brisbane. And through the servers began processing AI for a company in Beijing. When there's a demand, there's a profit. So this is a way people work around this. As developers buy cloud time through a subsidiary, that further masks the operation by paying in Bitcoin. In turn, the subsidiary buys time from the company to buy or Singapore that hosts the service. Of course, U.S. politicians are outraged, but we all know that there's a way around this. And instead of cloud profits going to U.S. corporations, the profits go to Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Dubai, and South Korea. So only Amazon is forced to know your customer. Ha, 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 ha. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're at in the world today on how all this is operating. So just a little bit of lineup of news. Nothing too depressing, I hope. The split screen thing way I'm doing here, I'm getting a little bit used to it, although I keep forgetting when to switch so I may have to put a little monitor here to remind me that I'm on the wrong monitor sometimes. I hope you enjoyed the show. Those of you who've been watching live, thank you for your feedback. I miss Andrea, and appreciate that. Hey, if you're not a subscriber yet, please follow or subscribe to the podcast at geeknewscentral.com. If you're not an insider yet, become an insider at geeknewscentral.com/insider. And if you haven't picked up a GoDaddy or product or service yet, now is the time. Support the show. Pick up a GoDaddy hosting account. $6.99 a month. $12.99 a month for a managed WordPress hosting account. That's as cheap as it's going to get. And it's a great product. I'm running tons of site on those. So get engaged. And if you have comments on today's show, it's very, very simple. Email me, geeknews@gmail.com, or follow me on X. Get engaged with the show. Be the Ohana that I know you are. Yes, you are a family. And, I did if you haven't left yet, you're in for a treat here. I did a interview at Podcast Movement. Of course, 20 years of podcasting is coming up, and I'm going to have to do something to celebrate that, probably with the company and also on this show. But there was a time, for those of you who've been here for many, many years, when I really understood podcasting was different. And it was obviously on episode 200 when I lost my dad. And then coming home to those thousands of emails of condolence. That was really the major, major wake-up call for me. But at the same time, I'm reminded that podcasting is a companion app, or companion content. I'm your companion for a period of time, a couple times a week for many of you. And I don't take that lightly. Knowing that you're here, that you're listening, that you're watching the show, it's greatly appreciated. And I hope that I'm a faithful companion, giving you good information and keeps you entertained. And I'm allowed to be a little snarky at times. It's truly a medium that is unlike, in my opinion, any other. Kind of Saturday afternoon, and I was kind of cruising around YouTube, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of just got bored. So even YouTube has its limits, right? And I think that as we all have this expanding wanting for more information and hear about new ideas, I try to cover enough of stuff in the show that's interesting, that would make you think and make you maybe want to go look at something. And do some research on your own. I always think that's important. But anyway, hey, it's been my pleasure to bring you a show. We almost made it. We're just about an hour. That's pretty crazy. Show's been a little longer recently. Hope you're okay with that. Again, it's been my pleasure to bring you the podcast, geeknews@gmail.com. Thank you for being here. Thank you for following along. Thank you for continuing to support the show. And more importantly, thank you for supporting the sponsor as well. It's been my pleasure to bring you a podcast. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time here on the Geek News Central podcast. Take care. Bye-bye. We'll see you Thursday.